Inside of the headquarters building was exactly what anyone would have expected. Sleek, expensive, nearly indestructible. Sophisticated but functional. Escalators ready to take you anywhere. Artificial intelligence assistants to help you with anything. The staff was just as impressive. Agents wearing dark suits and scientists wearing lab coats. Plus, we were one of the first fields in history to hire cyborgs to work full-time for us. First in history. That was a funny statement, though. We knew better than anyone else how relative time really is. I would say time is meaningless, but that might be an exaggerated statement. Time isn't linear, isn't reliable, and isn't exempt from manipulation. But it isn't meaningless. If it were, I wouldn't have a job. These were the headquarters of a time-traveling agency, and this building exists somewhere in America around 20,000 years before Christ. An arbitrary way to keep track of time that most of my colleagues protested against. The reason for time of our location, supposedly, was one of the founders deciding that the only way not to be overwhelmed with the problems of humanity was to live long before society became a thing. In our headquarters, our staff worked non-stop on development and maintenance of time-traveling machines, as our agents travel across time and space as spies. We avoided tinkering directly with the flow of time, unless it was part of our most important missions. Mostly, we delivered valuable information for a price. Some of us lived simple lives, in any time and place we wished for, and we were called to work on specific jobs here and there. Some of us resided at the headquarters, making a family, friends, and entertainment out of our jobs. And then, there were agents like me. It's not that we were too busy working to have a life. It's just that every job felt like a different life. I've been 1,000 different people, and I expected to be 1,000 more before retirement. At least, that was my goal. Until I started to notice there was something wrong going on around me. Everything started somewhere on the 21st century after Christ, during one of my least favorite types of missions. Men that were too rich for their own good. Rich enough to hire time-traveling spies to find out if their wives cheated on them. Like they had cheated on their wives first. But why was this stupid job turning out more difficult than necessary? Everywhere I went, something went wrong. Every time I cornered the woman, she escaped. As if someone was helping her. As if someone was sabotaging me. I tried to quiet my paranoid mind, and after succeeding, I moved on to my next job. Some world war or another. This time, I had to make sure a certain soldier survived. Again, it proved to be unusually difficult for an experienced agent like me. But this time it was much worse. It started during the nights. The first night I was in that year, I was startled awake. Not by a sound, not by a touch, but simply the feeling of being observed. This happened again and again until I was convinced there was someone watching me. I was seeing eyes hiding in the darkness. I started hearing a voice calling my name. I couldn't sleep in the dark, or by myself. The loss of sleep affected my performance negatively, but it wasn't just that. The signs were all around me, making me get goosebumps every time I noticed something out of place. One soldier more than I counted at first. Not enough corpses to match the number of enemies I watched fell down. Damaged guns and misplaced explosives. And the entire time, I couldn't shake that feeling. Someone watching me. Something whispering my name. A shadow trying to kill me. By the time I took the next mission, I had my guard up. I had to sneak in all sorts of pills back to medieval times and pray the princess I had befriended wouldn't catch me with them and accuse me of witchcraft. I needed something to soothe my nerves, something to help me sleep, and a lot of things to keep my body healthy, strong, and alert. I had a feeling I knew exactly what was going on. After all, I had been working in time traveling for a little over 15 years. It was about time the side effects started showing. Everything revolved around paranoia. The different times and ages getting mixed up in your brain. The thousands of names and faces coming back to haunt your subconscious. Trusting nobody. Not even yourself. Yourself. That was a thought I had running in my mind when I was returning to the headquarters after that mission. Trust nobody, not even myself. Especially if I was standing right in front of me aiming a bow and arrow to my head. The thing about time traveling is that when you press the button to take you back to headquarters, the experience is extremely disorienting. Inexperienced agents are advised to keep their eyes closed at all times, but I had gotten over it. It was an aggressively dizzy feeling. Reality blurred in front of my eyes. The past, the present, and the future collapsed around you. There was no time, and no solid ground under your feet. Your body reacts accordingly, as if trying to save you from death. Your heartbeat picks up, your lungs strain themselves, all your muscles tense and ache. And then it's supposed to be over. But what about a vision? What if, in the exact moment that I'm traveling back in time, someone catches me? Someone finds me alone, immobile, vulnerable in the dark forest. Someone wearing all black, a hood over their head, pointing a sharp arrow directly at my head, then shooting. When I appeared in one of the laboratories of the headquarters, I immediately fell to the ground, breathless. I passed my hand over my face, expecting blood but finding nothing, except for an arrowhead, lying on the ground in front of me. It got so close to me that it traveled in time with me. The realization that I almost died hit me like a ton of bricks. I moved quickly, disregarding the scientists that hovered around me and ignoring about 100 safety protocols, and I get out of the lab. I move as fast as I could, still in the medieval knight's clothing, and I storm into the office of my superior, Commanding Agent Luca Witt. "Someone tried to kill me," I announced without time for pleasantries. What if I tried to kill me? I'm aware that it might be my paranoia talking, I might be going crazy, but what if I'm right? What if there is a version of me from a timeline in the future or the past that wants me dead? It could be something terrible if they're a rogue agent, but maybe it's worse. Maybe I'll become a threat someday and they'll have to eliminate me as soon as possible. Luca is professional enough to go along with me, without asking stupid questions.
Agent Delacruz, you failed to notify me you were experiencing paranoia.
He tells me with a serious look on his face.
You know that's a symptom of
developing an incompatibility with time travel. Yes, I know. But what if this paranoia is also the thing to keep me alive? As soon as I ask the question, a chill runs through my body when I remember the other possibility. What if trying to fight this is counterproductive to the greater good? Should I just surrender myself?
What?
Luca scoffed, looking deeply concerned about me.
Delacruz, stop talking like that. If you need to take a break, stay here, at the headquarters. But don't lose yourself. You haven't made it this far to lose the fight. You're a strong woman, a real leader, Delacruz. I didn't train you just for fun. I see a lot of myself in you, and I want you to succeed and get over this.
But before he could continue, I interrupted him. "Don't you get it?" I exclaimed, slamming my hand on his messy desk full of papers between us. "I can feel it! Even now! Those evil, knowing eyes watching all my movements, breathing down my neck. This thing, this presence, doesn't just want me to fail, it wants me dead. It's only reasonable that it's me, isn't it? Tell me, Luca. Is it standing behind me right now? Can you see it? Can you see me?" My voice is shaking. My entire body was trembling really, and there was a drop of sweat going down my forehead. I had never been this tense or scared in my entire life. But Luca, he only looked sad.
Flora.
He whispered my name and shook his head.
Have you considered maybe it's time to retire? You don't need to conquer this company, you know? You need to stay alive.
I took a couple of deep breaths until my breathing normalized a little. Then I extended my hand to him. "One more mission," I asked him. "Please?" He hesitated, obviously, but after a moment he shook hands with me, and I held his hand tightly. All things considered, I was surprised Luca Witt granted me my request. Going through a mission in the delicate mental state I was in could be catastrophic. But he trusted me, I guess, which probably wasn't a smart move on his part. "Trust nobody," I repeated in my head. Not even myself. My mission was to go to the early 30th century after Christ, to find out the real identity of some people. That wasn't exactly my plan, though. If I lived long enough, I would do it, sure. I was a professional, but I was also in great danger, and my priority was figuring out exactly what was wrong with me. So, I took a little detour to the 19th century to visit an old friend playing socialite in the land known at that time as England. When I arrived safely, and I wasn't murdered in the first 5 minutes of my presence in that age, I guessed that this move was unexpected on my part, and I had successfully thrown off whoever was chasing me. I had to be quick then. I moved through the London streets as fast as my feet could take me. I pushed my way through a busy street, ignoring dirty looks and elbowing my way through. I wished with everything that I had that I wasn't about to experience any other symptoms of madness. But the only thing out of the ordinary was the way my heart jumped in my chest, and some of this recent tension left my body the second I finally saw her. "Marianne Hall," I greeted her with my best smile. She was just arriving at the safe house where agents of the company stayed in this age. "Flora Delacruz," she said. "What on earth are you doing in my timeline? Are you okay?" "Not really," I sighed, throwing my arms around her and hugging her tightly. I noticed that when she wrapped her arms around my back, she flinched. "I think I've been stabbed." Marianne pulled back from me and looked at her hands, covered in blood. She tried to invite me inside, but I shook my head. "I can't," I told her. "I won't put you in danger, but I trust you even if I shouldn't, and I know you have a full laboratory in every safe house of the agency. I need to know who wants me dead." Then I passed 2 objects to my friend. The arrowhead that nearly killed me during my last mission, and a piece of paper. Marianne accepted them, but also grabbed my wrist gently. Instead of asking me if I'd be okay, she wanted to make sure herself. She checked the watch on my wrist, which showed a full review of my vital signs, and let her know I'd have a couple of hours to live, even with this wound on my back. "I'll find you," she promised, and then let me go. I was on the move again, slowly at first, and the sun was setting on the horizon. The cold night would be a disadvantage for me, but I didn't want to die yet, no matter what. So I prepared myself to fight for my life. On the next busy street I entered, I was lucky enough to notice the knife before it hit my stomach. With a discreet but sharp move, I stole the knife, and I noticed it belonged to warriors from ancient ages. The killer escaped before I could catch them, though, so this time I turned around. I was the one chasing them. My mind was screaming, "It's you, it's you, it's you!" I was going crazy. Maybe I've been chasing myself from the beginning. Maybe this was all me. Either way, I had to end it. The city was darkening, and there was one person running ahead of me. People were starting to notice and look at us in fear. When I was close enough, I took a leap and jumped on their back. We fell to the ground, and I felt my heart about to burst at the prospect of finally unraveling the truth. And then, I was hit with a terrible shock. My brain felt on fire. My entire body shook violently. Everything burned for a couple of seconds. When recovered, I saw people running away from me in horror. I was just attacked with a specialized taser, something obviously brought from far in the future. I stood back up, in trembling legs, and started to move. Then, I said goodbye to professionalism and rules and everything in between. I would cause great shock among 19th century folk, but this was my life, and I wanted it back. I pulled a modern gun out of the pocket in my jacket, and I shot it once, and then again. People ran away from me screaming, and the attacker fell to the ground. I walked calmly towards the body, and when I got there, I heard Marianne calling my name from the distance. I looked back in time to see my friend waving the piece of paper I gave her. "You were right!" Marianne yelled, and I smiled. I had grabbed that piece of paper from the desk of the man that trained me, taught me everything he knew, and then decided I was a threat capable of taking over his position. His fingerprints apparently matched with the arrowhead that tried to kill me. I turned back around, and when I reached the limp body on the ground, I turned it around with a kick of my boots. the lifeless face staring back up at me. It was myself. All along, it was me, from a different timeline. And I had just killed her. But then, "I'm sorry," Marianne whispered, right beside me, before shooting me in the head.